The 23-year-old Heavenly Dragon rich girl Lanlan, who is involved in a drunk driving case that caused serious injuries, has reportedly now returned safely to mainland China after 4 failed attempts by the Australian judiciary to summon her to appear in court. There are even rumors that she may have left behind a double to face the 2026 court hearing in her place. And 3 weeks before she completely vanished, from November 22 to 25, China's number 3 leader, chairman of the National People's Congress Zhao Leji, paid a low-key visit to Australia. This was Zhao Leji's most mysterious trip since taking office. The Australian Parliament took the rare step of issuing, 24 hours in advance, a high-level security directive requiring windows and doors closed, Wi-Fi shut off, and MPs to avoid specific areas. At such a sensitive point in time, could Zhao Leji's visit to Australia have been about more than just China-Australia diplomacy? What does his trip have to do with Lanlan's return to China? Don't miss the next drop, subscribe and hit the bell. What's even stranger is that before all this, Lanlan successfully applied for a relaxation of her bail conditions, her curfew was cancelled, and the number of required police check-ins was cut by more than half. All of this was thanks to the gangland lawyer, Cohen she hired, the same man who defended bikie gang shootout cases, got actor Gao Yunxiang acquitted in his sexual assault case, and is known in Australia's legal community as a fearless top-tier criminal defence expert. These 3 events are strung together so precisely by an invisible thread that one cannot help but ask, is Lanlan's disappearance merely a private arrangement by a wealthy family, or has someone mobilized state-level power that overrides the judiciary and transcends national borders? What level of figure is she, that she could tie the hands of the Australian justice system, leave in advance, and make it so that once Zhao Leji set foot in Australia, everything just happened quietly and neatly? Is this really just an ordinary drunk driving case, or is it the beginning of a cross-border power operation? Zhao Leji's bizarre demands during his visit to Australia. On December 1, 2025, a mere half-month after Lanlan's last court hearing, a piece of news spread rapidly through overseas Chinese-language independent media, once again heating up this already highly suspicious Sydney drunk driving case. The 23-year-old Heavenly Dragon girl Lanlan had safely returned to mainland China, and was allegedly personally brought back by China's number 3 leader. From November 22 to 25, 2025, Chinese Politburo Standing Committee member and chairman of the National People's Congress Zhao Leji paid a 4-day, official-friendly visit to Australia. On the surface, it looked like routine diplomacy, but a closer look at the details reveals an unprecedentedly eerie atmosphere. Just 24 hours before Zhao Leji's arrival, the Parliamentary Service Department of the Australian Federal Parliament sent an urgent internal email to all MPs, officials, and staff, titled Security Advisory, Chinese Delegation Visit. The content of this email was extraordinarily strict. It marked out the complete route of the delegation's movements inside Parliament House and required MPs and staff to avoid the designated areas. It warned that Wi-Fi in the relevant areas may experience intermittent interruptions, implicitly suggesting potential external surveillance. It required all offices along the delegation's route to keep doors, windows, and curtains closed at all times. It specifically stressed that the use of mobile phones, tablets, or any Bluetooth devices was forbidden when the delegation was passing by. This email caused a shockwave in Australian political circles. Senator James Patterson questioned, "Are we receiving a parliamentary delegation, or are we receiving potential spies?" This was Zhao Leji's 8th overseas visit since taking office, yet such an over-the-top, near-lockdown-style security arrangement had never appeared before. Officials explained it as a response to ASIO detecting increased activity by the Chinese hacker group Salt Typhoon, but the same threat already existed in 2024 when Li Chang visited Australia. At that time, security alerts were only routine reminders, nothing close to "close your curtains." What makes it even more intriguing is that before Zhao Leji arrived in Australia, Lanlan had already been completely missing for over a month. According to a November 15 report by Australian media outlet People News, her white Rolls-Royce Ghost, worth $800,000 Australian dollars, disappeared from the garage in late October. On the same day, multiple professional moving teams were seen entering and exiting her penthouse in Watsons Bay, completely clearing out all furniture and luxury goods, as if it were a pre-planned evacuation. Vision Times reported on November 18 that after the mansion was emptied on October 17, there had been no further public sightings of Lanlan. At the November 14 hearing, only her lawyer Cohen appeared to enter a not guilty plea on her behalf. The court postponed the case but did not issue a warrant for her arrest. This was viewed externally as tacit permission for her disappearance. Although Australian police confirmed that certain aspects of her bail conditions were discontinued after mid-November, they still had not issued a public wanted notice as of December 1. This abnormal silence has been interpreted by independent media as evidence of pressure from higher-ups. The double rumor has added even more drama to the case. As early as October 23, the Daily Mail photographed a mysterious Asian woman entering and exiting the apartment building, and netizens compared images and suggested she might be a potential stand-in. Multiple users on X also circulated similar claims, alleging that not only had Yang Lanlan successfully escaped the Australian judicial system, she might also have left behind a double to continue handling subsequent hearings. If true, this would not only violate Australia's bail laws but also expose the grey area of cross-border identity manipulation, further reinforcing the plausibility of the theory that the real Yang Lanlan has already left the country. When all the clues are stacked together, the return to China rumor begins to look highly credible. In particular, the way the timeline matches perfectly with Zhao Leji's visit to Australia makes everything appear more like a carefully orchestrated operation than a hasty escape. On November 28, overseas independent media outlet Nikkei, internal reference, went even further, outright asserting that Zhao Leji's trip had two goals. First, to stabilize high-level China-Australia cooperation. Second, to take Yang Lanlan back to China cleanly. If necessary, they would even leave behind a fake Yang Lanlan for the Australian court to deal with. If these clues are eventually confirmed, then what originally appeared to be just a drunk driving injury case may already have escalated from an ordinary criminal case into a cross-border political incident affecting the politics of both China and Australia. It is reported that the legal team representing victim George Plasaras has applied to the New South Wales court for an emergency hearing, seeking to revoke bail and issue an international arrest warrant. But as of December 1, the court's only response has been that the matter is under investigation. The tying of the Yang Lanlan case to China-Australia economic weapons. If at first the question of whether there is any connection between the mysterious disappearance of Yang Lanlan in Australia and Zhao Leji's low-key visit to Australia was only a shadow of suspicion circulating on independent media, then the series of subsequent developments has almost transformed coincidence into a precisely arranged timeline. On October 17, 2025, Sydney's Downing Centre local court explicitly required that Yang Lanlan appear in person on November 14. Within the next 72 hours, data from China's General Administration of Customs showed that the proportion of emergency quality inspections for Australian iron ore suddenly jumped from 1% to 12%. Orders from the three major mining companies, Rio Tinto, BHP, and FMG, were postponed for technical reasons in late October. This policy sent shockwaves through Australian political and business circles. Australian Resources Minister Madeleine King made the rare move of publicly stating on October 22, "We have noticed anomalies in certain trade processes." It must be understood that iron ore is the lifeblood of the Australian economy. 60% of Australia's iron ore exports go to China, accounting for over 20% of the country's total exports, equivalent to saying that 1 in every 3 Australians indirectly relies on China's purchases for their livelihood. Yet the timing this time is extremely sensitive. It lands precisely at the point when the New South Wales court was ramping up pressure in the Yang case, making it difficult not to suspect that this was a state-level diplomatic tool crafted specifically for Yang Lanlan. For those familiar with how the Chinese Communist Party conducts diplomacy, this pattern is nothing new. Over the past 5 years, Beijing has used this economic trump card to strike Australia with pinpoint accuracy 4 times. In 2020, when Australia called for an investigation into the origins of COVID-19, Beijing instantly banned Australian coal, lobster, wine, and timber, causing losses of over $20 billion Australian dollars. In 2023, in response to the AUKUS submarine pact between Australia, the UK, and the US, China quietly cut iron ore quotas by 15%. In 2024, after Australia barred Huawei from participating in 6G trials, lobster and beef were once again, technically, put on hold. And in October 2025, this trump card was revealed once more, but this time, it was deployed on behalf of a woman in her 20s who had caused serious injuries in a drunk driving crash, leveraging such a heavyweight economic lever for her sake. Then, at the 4th court hearing, things got even stranger. Young Lanlan was still absent, but her lawyer again entered a not guilty plea, and the court once more chose to postpone the case. For those familiar with the Australian legal system, this is almost an unbelievable script. A foreign defendant skips court 4 times in a row and is not issued a warrant, not taken into custody, and instead the case quietly gets pushed back to 2026. This forces people to raise a new question: who exactly is Young Lanlan? What level of power stands behind her? The heavenly dragon girl indirectly tied to the underworld. If Young Lanlan's sudden return to China is already dramatic enough, what has actually shocked Australia's legal community the most is not her disappearance. It is that even before she vanished, she had already been enjoying a set of judicial special treatment that completely defied common sense and was unprecedented. In Australia, especially in New South Wales local courts, the rules are very clear. An ordinary defendant who fails to appear even once will have a warrant issued for their arrest on the spot. But after missing 4 appearances, Young Lanlan's bail conditions actually became more lenient. First, her curfew was lifted. Originally, she was required not to go out between 8 p.m. and 6 a.m. But when her lawyer stated that the curfew was causing mental stress, the judge simply cancelled it. Next, the electronic ankle monitor she was required to wear was also removed. The number of required check-ins was reduced from 3 times a week to once a week, again with the reasoning that her mental condition was poor, and the court actually accepted it. Many people thought Young Lanlan had merely hired a very capable lawyer. But when his name surfaced, the entire Australian legal community fell silent. John Cohen. Cohen. This is not an ordinary criminal lawyer. This is the most controversial man in Australian legal history, the one most willing to go head-to-head with the police, and the one who understands the grey zones of the law the best. He is known in the Australian legal profession as the underworld's designated lawyer, exclusive defender of violent bikie gangs, and the man who can push the police to the brink. In the 1984 Mulpera massacre, Australia's most notorious gangland bloodbath, 2 motorcycle gangs, the Comanchero and the Bandidos, engaged in a gun battle at a market, killing 7 and seriously injuring 28, shocking the entire country. Cohen was one of the defense lawyers in that case. In court, he dismantled evidence, exposed police errors, and forced law enforcement nationwide into a headache. Crucially, he succeeded in getting reduced or avoided convictions for gang members. The case made him famous overnight. In the 2009 Sydney Airport bikie brawl murder case, Comanchero gang members beat a rival to death in front of crowds of travelers at the airport, leaving onlookers screaming in terror. Once again, the defense for the accused was led by Cohen. Relying on procedural loopholes and inconsistencies in testimony, he forcibly secured reduced sentences or even acquittals for multiple defendants. Years of defending bikie gangs earned Cohen the title of gangland lawyer. Then came the 2019 sexual assault case that shocked the Chinese community. Chinese actor Gao Yunxiang faced serious criminal charges in Australia and potentially life imprisonment, with the entire Chinese public watching. Cohen used bar surveillance footage and contradictions in witness statements to get Gao Yunxiang acquitted on the spot. At this point, we arrive at the most absurd, explosive, and vividly surreal point in the whole story. Australia's gangs needed Cohen's protection, and now a heavenly dragon girl suspected of having ties to the highest levels of the Chinese Communist Party also needed Cohen's protection. If Young Lanlan is truly Xi Jinping's illegitimate daughter, that would mean the Xi family has effectively hired Australia's underworld's designated lawyer to protect her, thereby indirectly tying Xi Jinping to Australian gangsters, and effectively binding the CCP's underworld boss to Australia's underworld. On one side is glorious, great, and correct. On the other side is the underworld's lawyer. The moment these two ends are connected, the impact is no less than that of a movie plot. What level of secret is hidden behind Young Lanlan? Originally, Young Lanlan's name should only have appeared in a traffic accident report: drunk driving, driving the wrong way, injuring someone, and then waiting for trial. Yet in just 4 months, her case has turned into a mirror, reflecting with chilling clarity the chain of interests between China and Australia, the fragility of the judicial system, and the deeper logic of how CCP power operates. A 23-year-old young woman can skip 4 court hearings, leave early, have her bail conditions continually relaxed, evacuate her mansion without pursuit, vanish without a trace through multiple layers of international flight security checks, and even leave a perfectly matching blank space on the timeline of a Politburo Standing Committee member's visit to Australia. This already goes beyond what can be explained at the personal level. This is not something money alone can buy, nor is it something a lawyer can maneuver, nor is it merely a special privilege for a wealthy person with connections. The only force capable of making an entire judicial system automatically malfunction, causing diplomatic activities to automatically coordinate, and prompting the Australian government to automatically remain silent, is the intervention of state-level power by the Chinese Communist regime. But is this power protecting a single person, a single family, or some kind of political secret that cannot see the light of day? The true purpose of Zhao Leji's trip will never be admitted by Australia, and the CCP will certainly never acknowledge it. The background of Yang Lanlan is something the outside world may never receive an official answer to. But the timeline has already provided the clearest hint. She is not on the run, she is being escorted. She is not hiding, she is being arranged. She has not vanished, she has returned, through another entrance, under the umbrella of power. The real question may be only this: if a 23-year-old girl alone can effect bilateral diplomacy, prompt a Politburo Standing Committee member to personally travel, rewrite Australian judicial procedures, and enjoy cross-border protection, then what level of secret is being concealed in her? And has this storm really ended, or is it only just beginning? You are welcome to leave a comment and share your view.